So tonight I'd like to take you on a journey. And this journey is going to take us to southern Baffin Island in the Canadian Arctic, and we're going to take a brief stop on the dark side of the moon. A 15-second stop on the dark side of the moon, in fact. And the hero of our journey is a plant, because we love plants at the Canadian Museum of Nature. And this is our hero. It's the lance-leaved mare's tail, which is an aquatic plant found in ponds and lakes across the Canadian Arctic, as well as on southern Baffin Island. And southern Baffin Island is where I went in 2012 along with my colleagues, this intrepid quartet of botanists, and we were hunting for plants, as botanists do. And so for about 4 weeks, we traveled through the Soper River Valley on southern Baffin Island, which is between the communities of Iqaluit and Kimmirut. And while there, we traveled by boat and by foot and found 250 species of plants and brought home 898 specimens, including our hero, the lance-leaved mare's tail. This is what it looks like when it's flat and dead. And we put this herbarium sheet into this beautiful cabinet in the herbarium, which you've heard a lot about now. No dragons in this cabinet, very well organized, all digitized, I hope. At the time of collection, we also collected some green leaf tissue, which we put into an envelope like this. And as you can see, we did that for all 898 plant specimens that we collected. And this is just one of many thousands of tissue collections that we have at the Museum of Nature, plants in particular. We have about 20,000 of them that we've collected over the past 20 years or so. And many Arctic species are represented, such as those shown here. But we don't only love plants at the Museum of Nature, we also love animals. And so currently we have about 9,000 tissue collections. In the case of animals, in a 2 milliliter tube, often muscle tissue. Many Arctic species are also represented in here, many of them donated by Parks Canada. And soon we'll be getting some microbe samples from high Arctic lakes. Microbes are very important to the ecological functioning of these lakes, and there's many microbes in lakes just as there are in you, which you can learn when our new exhibit opens on December 20th. All about microbes. But what is the value of these collections, of these tissues? Well, they're a source of DNA molecules which you can think of as the instruction book of life, an instruction book of how to make each organism. But what is the value of this information? Well, each DNA book like this from the hippuride, or the mare's tail, allows us to answer very important questions, like how many species are there? How are species going to adapt to the changing climate? How healthy are wild populations? A very powerful tool. We are in a time of biodiversity crisis, unfortunately, due to human impacts on the planet. And to save biodiversity, we need to understand it. And this tissue collection is one important tool in building understanding of biodiversity. And our collection of tissues is going to continue to grow as researchers from across the country donate their collections to us, and we at the museum continue to go to places, including the Arctic, to collect. And we have now a state-of-the-art library for these DNA books, for these tissue collections, and it does not look like this. And so what does a DNA library look like, you ask? Well, Meg gave us a preview of this. Here it is, the National Biodiversity Cryobanque of Canada. So you can think of this like the Canada's National Library of genetic information about biodiversity. And these tissue collections are stored at minus 170 degrees Celsius in these freezers. Very cold indeed, colder than anywhere on planet Earth. In fact, you'd have to go to the dark side of the moon to find this temperature naturally occurring. So I am the keeper of a frozen library. And I realize that that is quite fitting, actually, because I'm somebody who loves cold places. So much so that in the spring of 2013, I went back to the same spot in southern Baffin Island, this time on vacation. And I visited the same place, the Soper River Valley. And instead of traveling by foot and by boat, I traveled by skis. And over 10 days traveled through the same landscape, totally transformed by snow. And I came across a familiar looking pond. And there in the ice of the pond was frozen our hero, the mare's tail. So as this plant continues to go through its cycles of growth and reproduction and death, as it has been for thousands of years, we in our collection now have a sample from this population in 2012. One DNA book among thousands that researchers from across the country and around the world can borrow just by sending me an email. Thank you very much.